Good afternoon, Chair Ballendrath, members, homes, staff, and guests. The lobbies are open and the recording has begun.
Thank you, Gretchen. Good afternoon, everyone. I will now convene the executive management team meeting for Wednesday, May 13th. I am excited about today's presentation. I met with the chief yesterday and looked at the PowerPoint slides in advance, and really looking forward to hearing from the entire team from the Enforcement and Education Department today. So with that, I'm going to, first of all, acknowledge that our director, Will Lakella, is out on leave today and will not be here with us this afternoon. But with that, I'll kick you off to Chief Grant and have you introduce your team to the rest of us and kick it over to you.
Thank you. And it's great to see you and Pete here in person, braving the traffic down from Seattle. So pretty awesome. Do first want to introduce the folks that are in the room before I run down just a couple of things to say to introduce the topic. With us today, and I'll start at the far end, we have my policy and program manager, policy and procedure manager, as well as Ledge Judy Edwards. We have Season Ekstrom, who's our FDA program coordinator. We have Matt McCallum, who is our education program manager. We have Kendra Tennerstadt, our West Side cannabis captain. This handsome gentleman in his uniform is Captain Josh Bolander, our administrative operations support captain, which is part of some of the reorg that we've done in the division. So he's now responsible for some teams. My deputy chief for operations, Jennifer Zube, and my deputy chief for administration, Paul. I know a lot of folks in the room know these folks already. But we just want to talk a little bit about what's been going on with the division and kind of share some things. If we could pull up the slide presentation. I'm going to roll off of this speech because sometimes I go off script and my team is here to watch me not do that. So I'll
rein you in.
Try to rein me in. I think the first thing I'll open with is you probably noticed just something a little different than you normally see today. And that's that a lot of us are here in uniform. Board members and staff usually come to events like academy graduations and recruiting events where you'll see us in uniform, but most of the staff and the public usually see us in a different attire. We're wearing a uniform today. I am in my, it's a modified Class A uniform. Paul is in the full Class A or ceremonial uniform. In the uniform the public's most likely to see is a Class B uniform, academy graduations and events like that. We're wearing them today just in honor of Law Enforcement National Police Week. It's a event that started back in 1962 with President John F. Kennedy signing a national declaration, and then Congress actually doing a legislative action afterwards to honor the sacrifices and some of the hard work of law enforcement. So it's about a 60-year-old tradition, and we wore them just for that event today.
Great, thank you.
Next slide. The first thing I want to begin with is to share that the division is not simply a regulatory body inside the agency. We're the face of the agency in the field. There's a lot of activities that go on across the state. The first touch for most licensees with the agency is going to be with our amazing licensing team, which is a great intro. And then after they work through the process, your E&E staff, the people represented here in this room, are the people licensees, retailers, community members, and partners interact with daily in multiple counties and cities. On the activity slide that you have in front of you, these charts and graphics are not just abstract numbers. These are actual visual representations of verifiable operational data already maintained on our websites. It's in a spreadsheet format there. We wanted to show a more visual representation for the team, and knowing this would pique a lot of interest, I'm happy to come back, and I think it's already planned for me to come back during a later briefing to kind of deep dive into some of these.
Great, thank you.
One of the most important takeaways from this first slide of our activity summary, the overwhelming amount of field engagement. These are 24-hour days for each officer, and it comes up to hundreds of thousands of hours of time spent in the field. And the one thing that I wanted to highlight is that the overwhelming majority of those engagements are supporting licensees through education, communication, requested contact, and not the enforcement actions we sometimes talk about. That's exemplified through the 25% in licensee contact with the traditional blue number that's there. The 23% in education, which is the orange color that's there. And then the premises checks, which are just visits that we make to locations to see how we can better help, which is the light blue. 78% of our activity is proactive visits. And this is over 5 years, but we can drill into individual years and show that data too.
Can I ask you a quick
Yes.
question? Is that okay with you?
Mhm.
So tell me a little bit more about premise checks. Are they unannounced? These are like I've done a ride along, and when I was doing a ride along, we just stopped in and started chatting with the person who owned the retail establishment that we were in, the licensee holder. And it was, in my view, when we did that, it was about relationship building, maintaining relationships, building relationships. Is that what tell me more about premise checks?
They can be both. Premise checks can be announced and unannounced. The great
Okay.
majority of them are a phone call. We're planning to come out as officers plan their day. Sometimes it could be a phone call, or it could be a contact from licensing where we're going out to visit just to say hello. We do a lot of premise checks during FTO training, where we're just going out to teach a new officer or a new compliance consultant how we do the business that we do. The vast majority of the ones that I've gone on have been planned, and someone knew it and was expecting us. And I've gotten a lot of good licensee contact from that, because
Great.
sometimes it could be a one-on-one conversation with a licensee they really wanted me to meet.
Great.
Did I answer your question?
No, I was just going to say to Member Holmes, I'm looking this way, so please feel free to tap me on the shoulder if you've got a question. Okay, go ahead.
And I did want to show this slide pretty much to tell you that, the data kind of reflects the philosophy of engagement and education. There's only 15% of the actual numbers up there that actually is an enforcement action. That 12%, that's investigation, much lower 3%, that's a compliance check, the stings that you always hear about, and then an even smaller number that's actually dedicated to AVNs. So, next slide.
Such a great illustration of the effort that the LCB goes to and the enforcement education team to educate people and make those kind of connections.
So I did want to quickly address the map. If you look in the upper left-hand corner of that map, so that is a statewide complaint chart that shows where most of our complaints come from in the state by location and county. The other three smaller maps that are there are broken out by industry, with cannabis being the upper right, liquor retail being the lower left, and then the tobacco and vapor industry being the lower right. The main reason for showing this is, you look at the concentrations from basically Olympia all the way up to the north border being a larger concentration, and that's where you see the larger concentration of licensees and staff. You see another larger concentration in the Cowlitz County area or down in Clark County and Vancouver. And then when you travel to the east side of the state, a larger number in Spokane. And then that kind of weird J that's in the middle there is Wenatchee through the Tri-Cities area. And when the director and I kind of talk about this, when I talk about this with Will and Tony, this is a resourcing map as much as it is where we spend our time. Most of the office locations are in those locations with the higher concentration, as well as that's where most of our officers are assigned. Next slide. And this last slide, which I think will generate a lot of discussions in future meetings, this is a 25 and 26 comparison. In the upper left side is the 2026 comparison, and that's just the first 4 months of the year and where our complaints have come from. To the right side is a 2025. We won't really touch on those smaller maps or those smaller charts, but I can explain a little bit of that if something does pique your interest. The main thing that I wanted to share about this is 2025 was about the busiest year we've had in the last 5 years, about 500 more complaints than you normally see. Usually we see about 2,000. There were 2,783 complaints in 2025, and we get them from two sources when we categorize them. External complaints, someone calling us, emailing us, writing us, telling us that there's something they're concerned about. Internal complaints, those are things that staff in the field have viewed and decided need to be reported or looked into. The one thing that stood out to me when we did this pool was 80% of our external complaints are unsubstantiated, meaning we did not find an action that required either education, a licensee to be contacted for a complaint issue, or a enforcement action, an NTC or written warning or an AVN. When you flip the coin the other way, our internal actions, which are a much smaller number, 20% are unsubstantiated, 80% substantiated, which you'd expect. Officers and compliance consultants who know that information see it a lot more and are able to see something, identify it, and take an action. I think the main thing. Go ahead.
Can I interrupt just
Yeah,
a second?
please.
I've got a text message
Go for
about board member Garrett trying to get on. Are you guys in communication with her?
We're trying to do.
Okay, mic access, it sounds
Yeah.
like.
Are you
Sorry.
pulling?
Sorry about that. I
No,
just
no
wanna make
worries.
Sure she's able to join.
Sure.
We'll go ahead and continue.
Yeah, no.
Now that I know that they're working.
Okay. For that 20% that is substantiated, for that smaller number, that's where you see more enforcement actions rise from. The only other thing that I wanted to share is we are ahead of the last 5 years. Last year, there were 933 complaints on 1 May. When we pulled this number this year, there were 999. The takeaway for me and for my team, mostly with those large amount of unsubstantiated complaints, is I think we have a greater amount of education and work we can do proactively with the public to tell them the things that may equal a violation, those things that may equal an issue, and then those things are just great information to have. And then I also think that we can handle a large amount of calls because of our new vetting processes that we use internal. We have a lot more personnel on hand, so we spend a good amount of time vetting the complaints that we actually get, and we're able to have a less negative impact on the licensee, because it's always something for someone from LCB to show up and say there's a complaint.
Yeah. Can you describe for me the process internally for external complaints? Like what happens to them internally and how are they handled by your team?
Yeah. So a lot of them come into our customer service link, Nikhil, upstairs, and that's an email or a phone call. The first thing that she does when she gets that complaint is she's going to determine what industry and what area.
Okay.
Depending on that industry and area, she'll forward it to usually the admin assistant in that region, the captain and the lieutenant. And then that vetting process can go from anywhere to looking at all of the systems and reports in EN to see if that's something that we're already aware of, to talking to officers and consultants on the ground to make sure that what they see is what they see. And then with most of those, they can be vetted out because it could be something that we've already looked into. It could be a misunderstanding. It could be something that we can automatically send to the compliance consultant team. For those that are actually vetted or need further investigation, that's where you would send an officer out for a compliance check or a compliance consultant out to verify if there's an actual issue. And then it may turn into a complaint. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. But it brought up another question.
Yes, sir.
And that question is, how does something get determined to be an actual complaint versus somebody contacts the LCB? Like, how does it, what's the avenue in which it actually makes it to you guys and makes it an official logged complaint?
So after the lieutenant has reviewed that with the admin assistant, and that lieutenant determines, as supervisor in the field determines that, yes, this appears to be a violation, it appears to be vetted, and that's when we initiate a complaint, and that's when you get a tick on the board.
Okay.
So that is where it actually rolls into a complaint. So to answer your question, there were far more calls than 2,621, but those were the ones that were vetted and either were a substantiated or unsubstantiated complaint that required an action.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Right. So again, I think there is a lot of interest and a lot of conversation that can be gleaned from just looking at a few of these charts and then having conversations with Will and Tony. We're definitely looking at better ways to put this in front of the team for us to be able to have those conversations. And I definitely look forward to being able to do that sometime in the future. But with this, I'm going to turn it over so we can dig a little bit deeper into some of these numbers and some of the activities that we have here. And our first up is going to be Judy Edwards in season. Next slide.
Good afternoon, Chair Bollinger and Board Member Holmes and Garrett, if she's on now. Okay, I'm Judy Edwards, as Chief Sediment Program Manager in the Enforcement and Education Division. Can you hear me?
There you go.
There we go. Okay. And this is Susan Ekstrom. She's the program coordinator for the FDA Tobacco Compliance Program. You can go to the next slide. So this chart is shows our organizational chart and then also our area map for the inspector areas. We currently have a 5-year contract with the FDA that funds 6 full-time inspectors and Susan as a program coordinator. And they each have their own area that they oversee. So we have Nancy and Oscar on the east side. Their areas are much larger than the others as they travel further distances in between licensees. And then on the west side, it'll be a little different variation. Shay, she works most of King County. They're a lot more concentrated. And then we have Nancy up in the north. We have Maxwell in the middle up the peninsula. And then we just got our 6th hired on, Audrey. She'll be Pierce Thurston down south. And as of April 1st, we finally have a full team again. Go ahead.
Just out of curiosity, do the team members that do certain areas, do they actually live in those areas or they okay?
Yes, they are. And they're assigned out of those offices. So
Okay.
we have, they're each assigned to an enforcement office. And stuff.
Great.
We can go to the next slide.
Okay, so I'm going to get into just a little bit more of what our FDA tobacco inspectors do. So we conduct tobacco inspections across all Washington State tobacco and vapor product retailers. And what we are mainly focusing on is federal laws and regulations. So determine that these retailers are in compliance with federal regulations, specifically the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act and the Tobacco Control Act. Our goal as a unit is to do one inspection at every retailer in the state each year. And if that retailer is in compliance when we do that check, then we will not visit them more than once per year. And that is outlined in our contract that we're not allowed to do that. If they are out of compliance when we do our check, then we will get a follow-up issued by the FDA, which will result in multiple checks per year. Most of our FDA inspectors' work is conducted in the field. So they're doing 2 types of inspections, undercover buys and advertising and labeling inspections. So the undercover buys, we are looking at making sure they're in compliance with federal laws relating to youth access and ensuring that they're not selling to anybody underage. And the advertising and labeling inspections, we're looking at a variety of things from making sure the advertising and products have appropriate warning labels on them, ensuring there's not unauthorized self-service displays, verifying ownership, making sure that we have current information in our system, and making sure that they're not doing things like sampling of vapor products, things like that. All of our inspectors' work is completed in a federal tobacco inspection management system. So we do not work out of the EN like the rest of the division does. The only ones that have access to this system is people directly related to the program. So myself, Judy, and the inspectors, and then the FDA. So all of that information is done on an iPhone that they receive when they're hired on with us, and it's immediately synced back into the federal system. Next slide, please. So while they're out conducting these inspections, if a violation occurs, that information is immediately sent back to the FDA in their system, and they go look in their system, review the information and the narrative reports that we submitted. And if they are in agreement that there's a potential violation, then a notice is sent out to the retailers that potential violation occurred and the date, time, all of that information. The FDA continues their review process. A lot of times that entails interacting and speaking with the licensee. And then if it is ultimately determined that there was a violation, if it was their first violation with us, then they will get a warning letter, and that's it. And then if they've had multiple violations or previous violations with us, then they're going to move into the civil money penalty process, or depending on how far in their violation history they are, potentially a no tobacco sales order. Once all of that is finalized, then that information is made public on the FDA's website, and that's available for anybody to go and look at, and then that retailer will be subject to reinspection, likely within 2 months.
This is one of the points that I've learned since I've been here and that I've seen over the years. A lot of interest holders are interested in the regular reporting of FDA numbers in contrast to what we do. And it's not a near real-time reporting because of that adjudication process. Season and Judy I have talked about over the time that they will go through their entire process before they submit compliance numbers. So we get them at a later time. They usually sync pretty closely with our industry compliance numbers, but that's always been a question since the day I joined the team, and they continue to remind me. But I think it's something that our interest holders are asking us a lot, but those numbers are the time that we can submit them.
Next slide, please.
And just so that you can get an idea of the penalty matrix that they have, as Susan said, the first time they get a violation, they will receive just a $0 warning letter. Subsequent violations will have a monetary penalty attached to it. This is what it does, and this does cover all products. So in the state side of regulations, we have different matrices for the different products, tobacco and vapor. But this covers all the products overseen by the FDA in our realm for tobacco, vapor, and nicotine products. And it's the same penalties as well for selling to a minor as in advertising and labeling. Those follow the same structure as we have here. So it's a little different than the state side. And depending on what industry it is, it's either more in line or less than the current. I think some of the other ones on the state side are a little higher now, escalating. And then if they go beyond the 6, then they will get the new tobacco sales order beyond that 6. We can go to the next slide. And as Chief was mentioning, so these are our compliance check stats that we can report. So we don't know how many, what the end result will be on the FDA side, but for the first quarter of FDA, we did conduct 876 inspections. 205 of those were the advertising and labeling, 671 undercover buy attempts. And out of those 90, we did refer, or out of that 671, we did refer 90 for underage sales. So that leaves us at an 87% compliance rate for the first quarter, which is a little higher than normal. We see on average about hovering 83, 84% year over year. It's been actually in April, it was a little lower, it was 80%. We saw a little decrease, but it usually kind of ends up around 84% throughout the year. Let me go to the next slide.
And then finally, I just wanted to touch on some kind of partnerships that we have between the FDA unit. Obviously, we have our federal partnership with the FDA. But beyond that, the FDA, as Chief mentioned and as we've mentioned, does require that we keep a lot of our information confidential until they complete their full adjudication process. That kind of limits what we're allowed to share. But once cases have been completed, then that information is made public on their site. And we've partnered with our research team to create a dashboard to showcase that information, both internally on our website, and then we have links to it on our external website so they can access that information as well. We also will, for our inspectors, when they're in the field, they will relay certain information to me, like public safety violations. If they see that while they're out, they'll relay that information to me, and I will relay that information to the appropriate unit in the division. For example, that might be like if there's a really heavy youth presence at like an age-restricted location, we will report that information. And then they also will report potential stateside violations that they see in the field that don't overlap with potential federal violations that we are working with specifically for the FDA. So that might be something like MSA product or something like that that has been pulled that shouldn't be on shelves that we see. So. Next slide. And that is actually it for our FDA presentation. That is our current FDA team. We are fully staffed again. So that was our recent team meeting in April. So just wanted to showcase the group.
Great, thank you so much.
A very quick one. Just
Yes.
wondered, once the FDA process is done, completed, do you have the ability or have you compared our experience with other states, with your counterparts in the other states?
In terms of like the compliance rate or?
In the inspections, the numbers per capita. I mean, how does your team compare to other states for us?
They're
So-
the best.
We are the best. No.
Without a doubt.
The thing about the FDA program is they issue individual state contracts, and all of the state contracts are individually created by whatever program in that state is running. So we were one of the first states to initially get the contract back in 2010. And some states are just recently over the past, 5-10 years starting to develop their contracts. So some states, for example, they might have like a program coordination team in Washington and they oversee Washington, Idaho, Oregon. Some states are run that way. And others are similar to us. Some are run out of like a Department of Health type of situation. Some are run out of police departments. So they all vary drastically. We check 100% of locations. Some states do 50% of locations. So it's kind of hard to compare because it's comparing apples to oranges essentially. So that's just.
I jokingly say we're the best because Season won't say it out loud. I will. We have not had any issues, any reported issues or problems with the contracts, with their reporting month to month. with any of our processes since Season and Judy have been on this team. They won't toot their own horn, but that's something I learned during the renegotiation process and something we still kind of are proud of today. So.
And just to say too, the FDA site, which we're thankful for our research team that they've been able to showcase those stats in an easily read dashboard.
Yeah.
The FDA site, you're just looking up certain locations, like it just has location lists. So there could be more of an opportunity to look at that to see if there's any comparison, but it's just pulling that data out of there and filtering it through different states. But like she said, it is a little different structure in each state, so it wouldn't be a perfect comparison, but just to see those different rates.
Oh, that would be great. And I think I appreciate, Susan, you talking. My only question was going to be, how does the other states structure it? Are they similar to how we do it in this state? But it sounds like they're all different.
Yeah.
So thanks for that. And it would be interesting. And I appreciate hearing the work that you guys are coordinating with the research team, and any continued work coordinating with them would be great.
And if you have any observations about the very recent change at the top of the FDA, I would be love to hear about that.
Yes. Okay, if there's no other questions, we will pass it along to Matt and Captain Tinnerstedt.
So I'm Matt McCallum. I'm the education manager for our education program in the enforcement division. I'm going to be presenting with Captain Kander Tinnerstedt, West Side Cannabis Captain. We're going to kind of continue the theme of collaboration. And I'm going to talk a lot about collaboration with the education program, half of which has been around for a while. The new part has just started coming in and getting on board in the liquor side. But we're also going to talk about collaborations outside of enforcement with other divisions and our partners in the industry. So next slide, please. Before I get too deep into all of our different partnerships and collaborations, I just wanted to give kind of a little quick overview of the compliance consultant specific work. You had asked about premises checks. Consultants do premises checks. All of our premises checks are pre-announced because we're just education. We do nothing punitive. But a premises check can be a lot of different things. It could be an annual inspection. It could be the one after that, which is responsible sales classes, which I'm going to talk about. That's a really big one for us. It's all meant to be proactive for the most part. The cannabis side does do non-public safety complaints. So that one would be a sort of a reactive one. But I like to say, even though that's reactive to a complaint, it's still proactive because we're just providing education, encouraging people to get into compliance on their own before anything punitive. So next slide, please. So this is going to look like some, sterile data, but I'm going to talk about it through the lens of collaboration here. So you'll see both liquor and cannabis premises checks. This is kind of the first instance where our collaboration and outreach begins. I have 25 staff in the program, and they spend 60% of their time in the field, face-to-face with licensees, providing education. You can see, this is just for the first quarter this year. So we've got a lot of checks out there. But this is where we begin our partnership. This is where we talk about how our officers are also educators. This is where we talk about what the laws, rules, and expectations are, finals, inspections, annuals. But while we're out there, sometimes we find things and then we address those through NTC, or notice to correct. That's a legislative thing that is specifically just education. It can look kind of scary because it's a formal document, but we try to be really clear with them. This is just, hey, we're capturing this formally so that we're all on the same page. And then if that kind of fails to produce the compliance results that we need to see, that's where our partnership with enforcement also kicks in, the commission side, where we're going to escalate to our commission staff, and they're going to get a crack at trying to get them into compliance before anything punitive happens. So escalation sounds kind of scary, but it's not escalation to punitive. It's escalation to a little more urgent education toward trying to get some compliance. So next slide, please. So I mentioned responsible sales class before, and if you could click one more time, there's a little bubble here. This is a big one for us that we've really been pushing lately, because these interactions, it may look kind of smaller. The numbers are a little smaller than the premises check piece. Again, this is just for first quarter. These are like hours long presentations where we are sitting down and going into meat and potatoes, public safety details. How do you sell responsibly? How do you avoid over service? how do you avoid, having our products that we regulate get into the hands of people that, shouldn't be consuming this. So far this year, we've done 30, just the education staff, I should say, because officers do these as well. 31 instances of in-person at location classes. We've done 6 virtuals, and I'm not going to read the bubble. That's a testimonial that I took the names out of, but we're finding that the virtual classes we give also are facilitating requests for in-person at like chain restaurants or grocery stores, things like that, where, hey, I sent my staff here. This has been awesome. We really like it. We really like this consultant. Can they come out and give us really like directional instruction for our location? Because it is different when you're in person. Checking fake IDs, having the tangible thing there, there's more to it. So next slide, please. So I'll kind of get into more details of like examples of collaboration that we're seeing. So on that RLS thing, right now as we speak, the consultants are finishing up a 2-day 4-class series with a tribe out in Eastern Washington, where they met with our consultant. They're like, hey, this is fantastic. Can you come give classes to us? So their food and beverage manager said, hey, we got 100 staff at our casino. We want trained. Can you come out and do that? And I said, yep. We'll bring officers out. The consultants will come out. We're going to give you the education you need to sell responsibly. So they're doing that right now, which is kind of cool. We've been doing ride-alongs internally, so other collaborations internal. We just took the entire audit team out from finance, which we've had a really good relationship with them, especially on the cannabis side, but super cool. They get to see kind of how the industry leads into the work that they do at retail. And that's a really cool dynamic that we get to share. We're coordinating quite a bit too right now. As summer kind of sets in, we're seeing outdoor events, sports entertainment facilities really get going. So things like the Puyallup Fair, we're working with our enforcement officers and captains to provide support, because you have an officer working a big area. They can't be at the disposal for RLS classes constantly. That's where our staff can come in and say, how many do you want? We'll give you as many as you need, whatever it takes to be safe and compliant. So, and then we also been coordinating a lot with licensing. Big shout out to the liquor licensing. They've been helping us with interviews to fill some vacant positions. And then on the cannabis side, working with Linda Thompson, we talk pretty much daily about floor plans and final inspections. And then their staff are working to, they do a lot of the really hard administrative paperwork on the front end for licenses. And then they're starting to come out with us on the back end to see, well, what does this look like in the field when the final inspection concludes? How does that floor plan actually match up? What are the discussions like in person at these locations? So that's kind of a cool thing too. Next slide, please.
Matt, before we move on, can I ask a quick question? So the responsible, just going back to the first bullet point up there, and maybe I missed this, those are voluntary, right? These are people calling us and saying, hey, we want you, so you guys go out. Is there any data on the impact of those, like people who've asked for those and their sales to minors or violations versus those who haven't? I'm just wondering, how do we quantify the outcomes of these classes and the value to participants?
Yeah, so we could look up and see like, hey, we've given classes at these locations and look into the, up to now to see if there's been sales after that. Some of the tricky part with that is we really push this after sales too. Mm-hmm. So you'll see classes that are, if there's a sale, the officers a lot of times do the work, and historically have done that of like, hey, you had a sale, let me come in and give a class. But sometimes it works too where, hey, how about a consultant come in and do it? So it's kind of a two-pronged thing. So we can look up those numbers, but it also meshes a little bit with the follow-up from sales to prevent it in the future.
I'm just thinking, if I were a licensee and or somebody, an employee trying to convince a licensee to take this class, wouldn't it be great to say, hey, we have data that shows that of those who take this class, their chance of selling to or getting a violation is reduced by X% or something like that.
Yeah, and we'd consider that too, and we're kind of looking into that. Just to pull back the curtain, one of the issues we have with that is because of the nature of turnover in liquor and cannabis industries. We want to be careful with going like, here's the data that shows the effectiveness of this when, they got a brand new manager or the new employee and it doesn't really reflect, so getting down to, well, do we look at who we gave it to and things like that.
Our research team could help you with that. Okay, thank you.
ahead, Matt. I will get you back up in one.
Okay, okay. I had it on my phone here too. Just for the record, things break whenever I'm doing stuff, so this is kind of normal.
While you're doing that, did Ollie get them?
You should.
Okay.
On back up. Okay. So another area of collaboration that maybe isn't as overtly seen, we have an education specialist who isn't a field person, but works really on the content, works really close with the communications team. Her name's Kelly Hallows. We partner really heavily with other divisions, but also with our officers and licensees in the field. Go, hey, what are we struggling with? What are the officers seeing that we need help with? Let's create some content or some education material that could be guides, it could be newsletters. There's a whole kind of plethora of things that we can tap into. And so Kelly produces those. Again, this is just the first quarter, our education projects that we've produced. And next slide, please. I'll have Kendra talk about one of those.
I'm sorry, can I go?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Like a dog with a bone.
No, it's fine.
So going back to those classes,
Yeah.
do the participants get any type of certificate or anything that demonstrates it? I'm just wondering, like, so
Sometimes.
thinking about movement.
Yes.
If I go to apply for another job in the same industry, can I show, hey, I've had this class and
Yeah. So the answer is sometimes, because certain license types require us to give them that. I'm thinking like the nail salon, snack bar sort of stuff that's actually written in. We don't usually give it, like we'll send an email, and actually we're working on surveys too for the people to follow up on. But there isn't like a formal certificate that we give for those, because a lot of times too, they're not always sharing with us. Like if it's virtual, they don't necessarily want to share with us. In the, I won't say the old days, but we are working toward having these in-person at field offices like we used to. And we used to do that. We used to get a lot of people that like sold to minors that would do it as a condition of court, or like before they go to court to go, hey, I took the class. And so upon request, we'll give out, there's like little cards that we have for that too.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Ready for 'em?
I'm ready.
So an example of something Kelly has done recently for our group at least, and we spoke a little bit about it last time, was the information sharing group, which was a brilliant idea, in my opinion, by Lieutenant D'Amelio. And what that focuses on is bridging the gap between our licensees as well as law enforcement officers, so that when they have something that happens at their store that's criminal, that's outside of our jurisdiction, that they can bridge that gap between them. And so Kelly helped us put together a flyer to go out to those licensees that will help them. And then she also helped on the back end with the law enforcement side of things for us to send something to the law enforcement side to get them on a registry, so that when something does happen, we can collaborate that together. So she's been very helpful for us. Next slide, if we can. Continued communication and teamwork. So something that we do is invite the compliance consultants to our supervisor meeting. And then also on the other side, like the team meetings that they have out in the field, the compliance consultants come to that too. So during that time, we can share things in collaboration and talk about, oh, you know, I've been to this place and I'm seeing this, or can you help me with this? So it's an opportunity to have that face-to-face contact and bring them into our meetings. Next slide. An example of this just recently is on 4/20, one of our officers, Officer Cardozo, as well as compliance consultant Lee, went out down in the Vancouver area and did premise checks together, and just provided education. Just took that opportunity together to meet with their stores and talk about some concerns of 4/20, right? Busy day. So they did do that. They did do 4 ID checks, but that was just on the officer side. Compliance consultant Lee just stood by, just because that could lead to some sort of enforcement action, and we would want to keep him separate of that. But there were no violations observed, and it was just an opportunity to have that face-to-face contact on a busy day for them. Next slide. And then kind of to wrap up, what Matt and I had wanted to show is just the partnership over the year, at least in the cannabis side and starting in the liquor side, of how seamlessly it goes from the compliance consultants now to enforcement officers, and how we're kind of seen as one group now, instead of the contentious side of things towards officers, like, oh, they give us education, we both give education. And so it gives that opportunity to have that seamlessness connection between us. And just up on the board as an example that we had, where a licensee complimented one of our officers to one of our compliance consultants, which wasn't always the case before. So it was nice to hear positive feedback, and he was able to share that with her too. So, yeah. Now I will hand it off to Mr. Bolander.
Good afternoon. My name is Josh Bolander. I'm a captain in the Enforcement and Education Division, and I lead the newly formed administrative support team. This team was formed in April, so it's brand new, but the units within the team are not new. It's just the way that they're organized that's new. This team consists of the examiner unit, or analyst team, the chemist unit, and our training unit, which houses our evidence program. And so this reorg will allow for more focused support and attention to these highly technical units, while also freeing up needed bandwidth for the cannabis operations captains and Deputy Chief Mackerel.
Is that, Josh, as you were saying this is a newly formed team, I was thinking, why? Why did we, so tell me, it sounds like you answered much of that in your last comments here, but just talk more about why this team was developed, if you can, or maybe it's Larry.
I can jump in.
Okay.
So, the first year and spending time with the leadership team, there's always a focus on resources. We had 7 captains out in the field. Our cannabis captains who get a lot of licensee contact, they have a lot of requests for information. I was concerned we were splitting their time between managing those checks, those investigations, and those operations, and supporting some of these highly technical teams who also collaborate a lot inside the building.
Mhm.
Most of them, if not all of them, are assigned here. Providing an administrative captain gave both those 3 supervisors the ability to be able to get more done, to spread out some support, because the deputy chief was doing that on top of everything that he does. And it gave the cannabis captains the opportunity to get back in the field a little bit more with their staff. And you see this during ledge session. You also see it in post-ledge implementation. The work becomes a lot more intensive for the administrative support teams.
Yeah.
And Josh, with his experience, has been able to add to that.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, and we have an administrative assistant to help support this team, who's Belinda Verona. So next slide, please. One thing we wanted to highlight about this team is that we have STEM positions, science, technology, engineering, and math professions within our division. And our officers would not be able to effectively do their job without the important support that these staff offer. The first team that we wanted to highlight in this regard is our chemist team. That's a 3-person team that's led by Dr. Trumbull. And Harjo Verk is our chemist 2, and we currently have 1 vacancy on that team, our chemist 3 position. This team analyzes data from cannabis testing lab reports, specifically looking for test failures. And they look at quality assurance testing results in CCRS, or the traceability system. They also look at WSDA testing results for product that we send to that lab for analysis involving investigations or just random sampling. So they interpret these lab results and they look for things like unauthorized pesticides, heavy metals, other contaminants, maybe residual solvents and concentrates. And then they also review cases involving synthetic cannabinoids such as Delta 8 and Delta 10. And they increase the quality and consistency of our chemical investigations. Prior to having this team, the reports would go directly to the officers who were expected to interpret the results. And some officers were really good at doing that. Other officers, not so much. And sometimes it was just a confidence issue, in terms of, it's been a long time since I've taken a chemistry class, But these chemists help to guide and direct our officers, provide expert support, and again, increase that quality and consistency of the investigations and the confidence with the officers, driving those investigations forward. They also look for anomalies and trends in data, just to see if there are new things that we need to be paying attention to and concerned about in terms of product quality or public safety. And the chemists are members of the Cannabis Laboratory Analysis Standards Program, or CLASP, which is an interagency group that involves WSDA, DOH, and LCB. Next slide, please. So this is our examiner team, our second STEM team, and it is led by Brian McQuay. And we wanted to highlight that all of these analysts have a master's degree or higher, ranging from applied economics to soil sciences. And their educational backgrounds bring a lot to the table in terms of data analysis. So we like to have that varied educational background skill set. Next slide. So we have 4 data analysts on this team. They lean into data forensics. So they look for things in our traceability data that might indicate diversion, inversion. They also help out with recalls, tracking down contaminated product if we need to do that. They provide expert assistance with officer investigations. Just last year, they provided 475 reports to officers to help out with their investigations and to be part of their case files. They also get out in the field and they do field work assisting with traceability audits, investigations, and then educating licensees and their employees to bring them into voluntary compliance if they're able to do that. Last year, they had over 1,200 contacts with licensees and employees, which include phone contacts, email contacts, and in-person contacts. They're involved in CCRS enhancements and validation of data entries. And recently, they've been helping out with our electronic notebook data, bringing more transparency and optimizing what we're able to do with these data. Next slide, please. And then the last unit within our newly formed team is the training unit. And they're very different than the other 2 units, but no less important. And this unit not only oversees training, but it houses our evidence program for the division. There are 3 people in this unit, led by Lieutenant Ikem, Sam Ikem, and she is assisted by Officer Locke. And then we have our evidence custodian, Patrick McMillan, who staffs our evidence warehouse and also assists in the field with evidence when officers need that. Lieutenant Ikem oversees and Officer Locke oversee a cadre of instructors, including 6 firearms instructors, 8 defensive tactics instructors, and 2 armors who inspect officer weapons to make sure that they're functioning properly, or if they need minor repair, that they can get that done while they're at the range. The team also assists with onboarding new officers and providing that education and background for the agency. They oversee our field training officer program for new officers that come on board. And then Lieutenant Ikem is the liaison to the Criminal Justice Training Commission's Basic Law Enforcement Academy, so that when we have new officers that are attending that academy, we have lines of communication and support for our new officers that are cadets at the academy. They also weigh in on equipment needs and training for both commissioned and non-commissioned staff. An example of this would be our new radios that we received. They've been providing training on radio use to make sure that our officers are able to effectively do their jobs in the field and to enhance our officer safety in the field. And then importantly, they ensure that officers are meeting officer certification, continuing education requirements, legal requirements that are set in statute or determined by the Criminal Justice Training Commission. And our officers have the same basic training requirements as any other police officer in Washington State. So it's important that we meet those requirements, and they include 24 hours of annual in-service training, and then a law enforcement training and Community Safety Act requirements, or LETSA requirements, which include training related to de-escalation techniques, cultural awareness, and mental health training for law enforcement. And again, LCB officers are held to the same basic training requirements as any other police officer. So all law enforcement throughout Washington State have to satisfy those LETSA training requirements. And again, we wanted to highlight that They provide training to non-commissioned staff as well as commissioned staff. So when we have new compliance consultants coming on board, they train them in the field or oversee field training and other training needs for them. That's all I have.
Rounding third base and hitting for home.
Good afternoon. I'm Paul Magro, Deputy Chief of Administration. I'll be speaking with Deputy Chief Zube. She's Deputy Chief of Operations regarding operational context and some impacts. I'm going to touch on officers per capita, law enforcement staffing and trends, and some factors in context. So Washington State is ranked last in the nation for the last 15 years per capita for approximately 1.4 officers per 1,000 residents. This is as of 2026, and it's the lowest average of the nation. The average of the nation's officers per capita is 2.3. So law enforcement in general falls short in this state. So it's partly attributed to the challenges of recruitment and retention, competitive hiring, and perceptions of law enforcement in some areas. For us and all the agencies, the impact of reduced staffing, it includes an increased response time in addressing some of the concerns and requests, which results in the high risk or higher risk public safety issues receiving the bulk of attention. We continue concentrating on hiring to ensure that the emerging issues that are being responded to and adequately addressed. For other agencies, defined priorities that they have and reduced staffing results in matters regarding the alcohol, cannabis, tobacco, and vapor being referred to our agency. So we're a conduit for their needs.
And we are finding an increase in local agencies reaching out to us, Candra's team, as well as our alcohol retail teams. And in a lot of instances, our tobacco and vapor teams have been receiving requests from local agencies at a higher level than we've seen in previous years. With those numbers, and it's almost kind of a joke to say when a law enforcement agency has an issue with one of the four industries, they're now calling us because of that, because they do have a lot of work to do in their own cities.
So as agencies continue to focus on the priorities within the communities and are dependent on our agency for the support and resource for our subject matter expertise with all the restricted lines that we have, we regularly ensure that we're available to partner with them. So this is an ongoing trend that we have as far as communities, municipalities, local authorities, government agencies that request support and assistance from us.
Yeah, next slide.
How is it one?
Oh, no, sorry, that is it.
You're good.
That is it, I'm sorry. So up there, I'm gonna help decipher some of that mess up there. You're gonna see those are warrants that we've issued. Lower right was a warrant, unlicensed location, but actually involved a campground, a stage, and a house. And so we had a lot of officers there. The top, we also assist with local law enforcement, but this was a search warrant, illegal marijuana grow, and then we had the THC hemp derived product. I said earlier, we do help local law enforcement with their warrants. And then recently we had one that involved an unlicensed distributor, spirit distributor. They were getting product out of state. So they were bringing in. We are still working on that one where the stores are getting consequences, AVNs for purchasing. The funny thing about that is we had these licensees just had beer and wine off-premise sales, but they were bringing in spirits and selling that as well. So that was kind of odd. But I also, because it is Police Appreciation Week, I just wanted to talk about some of the things our officers do out there. They do volunteer. They are part of the communities. They volunteer with animal shelters. We also do youth associations. I know last Christmas it was the FOP that actually sent officers out, and we participated in uniform, going out and taking the less fortunate children out shopping so they can buy things for Christmas, maybe for their families or for themselves. So it was a really impactful for the officers that participated. We also get a lot of the windshield time. So we do have officers that are volunteer firefighters as well. So they really take this whole public safety to heart. But
we have a lot of windshield time. So some of the things that we've seen out there and participated in, we had like 3 incidences providing first aid. One was a drug-induced person passed out in front of one of our officers. We had 2 car accidents where we were right there. One involved one was a rollover accident, and the other one was a pedestrian versus vehicle. So
These are in the last 45 days.
yeah. And then we had 2 fires. I only mentioned that where we don't really respond. We have our one, our fire extinguisher, but one of I laughed because we were part of the problem there. We had one of our vehicles caught on fire while the officer was driving down the freeway. And I mentioned this because, and I don't know if it was just his training. Luckily, we were close to a rest area, so he pulled off, but he didn't pull into a parking spot. He maintained that he was away from where anybody else could have been affected by that. They did make it out of the car, and then they watched the car burn to the ground. Truck. It was a truck. I didn't think that one fire extinguisher was going to help them out. So, and then recently we were going into a vapor location, backing in. We had a Tesla, and if you know Teslas, they have the camera. As they were backing in, they saw the 2 rubbery assailants running out the door, and so they called for assistance, and they were able to turn over to identify who. I really don't know if they caught the assailants, but here's the video of what was occurring before they went inside. So, but anyways, we want to thank them for the work that they do out there, and maybe some of these things aren't their requirement, but it kind of is, So, so anyways, back to our presentation. We have 120 commission staff, 15 vacancies, and I know Paul talked about that. Seems like a lot, but believe it or not, it's been the lowest we've had in years. I don't know, 7, 8, 9 years, and so 15. But that's what we see in the local department, so it's nothing new. I'm not going to go over some of the things we do. It's very similar to what Matt, I'm talking for the liquor side, what Matt and Kander were talking about, the education. We also do annual inspections. We also do premise checks. Most of our premise checks might be unplanned. So we do that, but we do a lot of education with that time too. But we also do enforcement, compliance checks, audits, pesticides. I know that we have gotten into the role where we are more proactive, but there are times where we are reactive as well. Going into the summer months, we have the cannabis, the outdoor grows over on the east side. So hopefully we've done enough education on the front end. So when we go into that, but it does become reactive. The other is, what was the other reactive is, FIFA. We're going into this, FIFA and outdoors. So other things might get placed on the back burner as we're going into making sure we're dealing with those outdoor locations. We also have the criminal conducts, diversion, unlicensed location. We're doing those. So we have created, it's not up and running yet, but we have a small special investigation unit. We are increasing the staffing on that. And what we're finding is that there's a lot of investigations that take a lot of time. And so they will be getting this might be diversion cases. This is financial investigation, fatalities that might come out of some of the local bars, and then maybe assist other task force. As I mentioned, we're out there doing warrants with them.
And this was a conversation with the director and I. SIU investigators have a longer string of time to be able to do a deeper dive into some investigations. In having the conversation with Will, there were some complaints that needed a little more capacity. So he's given us the ability with the increased hiring to be able to add 2 more positions and to focus on that during the reorg.
Yep. On the next 2 slides, we're going to show you our graduates from the academy this last year. I got to point out before I kind of talk about where they've been. So on our left 2 side, you see the brothers, and then on the right side, you see the husband and wife. But before they can even get here, they interview with us, and then if they get chosen, they have to do a background, a criminal check, a financial check, polygraph, psych, and a drug test. And if they make it through all that, then they're hired and they got to go to the academy for 19 weeks. And that is intense academic and physical training. And so there's a lot there, but And these are where you're going to see the next slide also shows another larger group of, again, these people that have joined us in this last year. But once they come out of there, they're not done. They come out and they do a field training officer program. So they have 14 weeks where they have to pass that so we can see and train them on, hey, step it back. Here's what we do. We do education. We're just not in there charging and stuff. So these are our academy graduates from 2025 and part of 26, but we thank them for joining us. That's all I have.
So with the last 5 minutes or so, we did want to share just a quick video of what our teams out in the field. Again, National Police Week is upon us. So we wanted you to hear from some officers in the field. So we kind of went and did a few interviews, and thanks to Brian and his team, we're able to share their thoughts with you. So Gretchen, hold my hand if I get this wrong.
There's our team.
Yeah, nobody needs to see that. Don't want to either, folks. Okay, I see what you're saying.
What to look like.
Gretchen is coaching me over here, and y'all would have thought I knew how to do this, but
Hit the play button.
Sam's here to help you, Larry.
I know. There we go. All right, Larry's got to go.
Do you have the sound share?
Thank you, Sam, because Sam is knowing what I'm about to do wrong. Share video.
Make sure you have the audio turned on too.
Yeah, he's doing that right now, but now your thing's not showing, so share your screen again. There you go.
I'm a chief and I'm somewhat trainable.
The market actually enabled me to do, you know.
I really like to crochet stuffed animals.
Victor Hopkins. I've been with the Liquor and Cannabis Board for just under 10 years, and I am assigned to the Seattle team and primarily work on Capitol Hill.
So my name is Tyann Love King. I go by Ty for short. It's a little easier for people to remember. I work in the retail liquor as an officer in the Northwest region of the Mount Vernon field office.
Well, my name is Gabriel Fletcher. I'm currently the acting lieutenant for the Eastside Tobacco Tax Unit. And I've been with the agency now a little over 4 years. And when I mean a little, I got hired April 1st, 2022.
I am a retired police officer from the state of Indiana. I moved here when I was hired by the Liquor and Cannabis Board back in 2016. And I heard good things about the agency, and seeing that I retired, but I wasn't ready to retire yet, figured, what else can I do?
It is not my first job in law enforcement. My first step into law enforcement was working in the second largest jail in the state for Pierce County as a corrections officer. And then from there, I then transferred into being a commissioned police officer for the Mount Vernon Police Department.
Yeah.
And then I went as a commissioned park ranger for the Washington State Parks. And so I really found out about this job from my awesome previous police chief.
Right. So back in 1997, I got hired by the Washington State Patrol, and I served 20 years on the Olympic Peninsula as a trooper and as a commercial vehicle enforcement trooper, and then transferred to Spokane for my last 4 years as a commercial vehicle enforcement trooper. I retired in 2022, And while I was looking for something a little different than traditional law enforcement, I stumbled across the LCB.
You get an opportunity to interact with a lot of different business owners, not only them, their management, their staff. And hey, if I have family and friends coming in from out of town, I figure, where would I want to take them?
The ability that I have in my training position as a lead DT instructor, being able to train our fellow officers with the liquor board, as well as I help train the recruits at the Basic Law Enforcement Academy in Arlington. It's really important that I, maintain a good skill set, be proficient at what I'm teaching for both the LCB and then for recruits as well.
The biggest thing that brought me into law enforcement is I wanted to make a difference in the world. I wanted to try and make things better. And what I learned my first year or two as a trooper is I can't change the world, but I can make a difference in the county that I worked in, the cities that I worked in. I started off in the liquor unit, and so that was really easy because we were out there looking for folks that may have had too much to drink or were underage or stuff like that. And if I could stop it there, then they weren't going to get on the road and have to be a problem for, the troopers and the deputies and the city officers. But now being in tobacco tax, it's a little different because I'm doing something and it actually affects a larger group. By helping the state save money by not losing it, through the MSA, violations and things like that, or looking for those that are not paying the tobacco tax and those things, those dollars fund programs that can assist people, maybe not just in my community, but other communities. And if I can find those dollars, or if I can help the state save those dollars, then I am doing something on a larger scale, which, I may never know.
People have a misconception about law enforcement that, we aren't human, we have families, we have compassion for them, we're here to help them, they call us, we come.
Maintaining a healthy lifestyle and training outside of that does require a lot of non-paid time that takes away from other, responsibilities I might have in my life, but that I'm sacrificing to make sure that I'm a good officer in the field.
We're just like them. Our kids play sports. We go and watch them. We go to all these different activities. We're not this mindless automaton going out there, stopping cars or going into licensed establishments, just focused on violation.
We want to help our business owners to be successful, but we want the community to be able to go out and have a good time and know that they're safe and secure when they go out there.
It does take an extensive amount of time, more so than just what our agency is able to provide officers. So it's really important that, I sacrifice that time to do the best I can.
I love numbers.
Okay.
And so, of course, I get to play around with the stock market a little bit when the wife lets me. And that's the fun part right there is where am I going to go? Where can I do? What does the market actually enable me to do?
I really like to crochet stuffed animals. I have a good library of different animals that I've done. So that's really awesome. And then I really like to spend time with my husband, who is my jiu-jitsu training partner as well. And then we have a ton of animals at home, so we like to, spend time with them. So it's a busy household.
I love cycling. I've got a mountain bike that I purchased, 2 years ago. And I'm trying to justify that purpose of being out there and riding around. Luckily, my youngest daughter also enjoys biking, so we'll go out on the trails. and just do that. We did the Hiawatha, my middle and my youngest daughter. We did that, was it 2 years ago? And we're planning to do it again this year.
So I've done a $200-pound bench press. I've done a 285 squat, and then a 365 deadlift.
See, there you go.
And I've also done a 125 military press.
I like to research destinations and I love to travel. I love being in and out of the country. There's so much to see, and if you're stagnant, and there are people who probably have never even left the state of Washington before.
Well, what is it that LCB does? Because, for 25 years, I really had no idea what the LCB did. I worked with them once for a couple of hours, and I still wasn't sure what the agency did. And then now that I'm here, there's so much, and we're probably the best kept secret in the state as far as what we do, not just for the community and for the state, but just what we do in general, because we're kind of the folks that stay under the radar. We go in, we observe, we see. If we find violations, then we'll bring that up to the licensees. If we don't, we move on to the next establishment. We're not out there with sirens blasting and lights, spinning.
Back when I first started in 2016 and having a meeting with the director, Rick Garza, he says, hey, our job is to help our licensees to be successful. And going out and meeting with them, we're able to do those kind of things.
Right. Gretchen's saving me from myself. Okay. So that's our team in a little bit over an hour. Just wanted to share with you a little bit during our month. And then definitely close with law enforcement appreciation, because we do have a lot of officers who enjoy this job and take it pretty seriously. But we recognize we're part of a team. We're part of a broader agency. I leave it open for any questions.
Well, thank you very much, first of all. So any questions or comments?
Quick comment. I'm hoping that together you and Brian, Chief, can make it a much less of a well-kept secret about what the work is being done. Let's get out there and tell these great stories of successes that we've had.
And since you mentioned that, Brian and Sam, I did want to help them out with one thing, because if it were not for Brian and Sam, who really helped us put this together, I do want to thank them. Take that anywhere, probably go buy your thing. But no, they did an amazing job helping us craft this story. Make sure, we were talking about the things that we know matter to the industry and matter to our licensees.
Great work.
Board Member Garrett?
No, I just want to say that was very thorough, impressive presentation. I think it was very not just in the room, but even staff from the other departments and things. I like how we are doing this intentional EMT and hearing from all departments, because I think that sometimes we think everyone, just because we all work at the LCB, know what goes on and what everybody is doing. So I am really enjoying these presentations, and I thought you guys just did a great job of letting us know all of the things that go on in enforcement and the roles that you play.
Thank you.
Yes, here. I echo what Board Member Garrett just said. And I too was thinking about, I hope that other team members are learning as I'm, because every time I hear from the teams, I learn more about the work that we do. And I know particularly new employees are probably learning a whole lot about the work that we do. And thank you for the opportunity to celebrate Police Week with you and being a part of that celebration and honoring of the work that law enforcement does in the community and here in the LCB. I was impressed with the data slides that I saw right up front, and really impressed with how we use data to drive the work that we do and to tell a story. When I look at those slides, I see a clear story, and that story tells me that we work hard to educate the community, our licensees about the regulations and this regulatory environment that we operate in, and that's our focus, that we focus on education followed up with progressive opportunity for people to get into compliance. And then when that doesn't work, that we have an obligation to follow up with a violation if we need to. But it starts with education. And so it's really nice. I saw one slide that said actually education and enforcement. I kind of like that personally. I think that really demonstrates what the heart of what we do. So appreciate it very much. Any final comments?
No, I do want to thank the board for its support. Will and Tony and I spent a lot of time together over this year, also with my peer directors, figuring out how to tell our story. We are the face of the agency when it comes to, again, like I said, Becky's team handing off that licensee. We do get a lot of touches with the public. We want to make sure that we are actually telling all these stories and we're representing the agency well. Some of those slides were about crafting that message and being able to help with the proactive answer to the question before it gets asked. What are you all doing for us? What is it that you do? Why are your officers out here? Why do we resource these teams the way we do it? It's for that reason. And I'll just close with thanking my peer directors and the folks in this room. Definitely. It has been a very interesting 14 months for me, just being on this team. And I'm definitely looking forward to continuing building on what we've done so far.
Oh, great. Thank you very much. I will also add I really appreciate face-to-face time with staff. And so having all of you take time out of your busy schedule to come to this meeting, to participate in person, and then to also be introduced by either photograph or the video at the end to even more staff within the LCB. Because at the end of the day, and I've said this before and I always worry that it's going to start sounding corny, but our staff are our greatest resource. And, supporting them and getting to know them is important to me personally. So I really appreciate that. And board member Garrett, you identified something that I think also resonates with me, and that is the value of the restructured way in which we're doing these meetings. There's no other environment where in our previous structure that we would have been able to spend this amount of time digging in as deep and really fully understanding the work of each section of the LCB and education enforcement in particular. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Well, with that, I will go around and ask if there's any other updates from anybody else, either online or in the room today.
I had a very rewarding cannabis law class at the UW recently. Received lots of help from Brian, our alcohol advisory committee. I was greatly assisted by the deputy chief and several others in the department. So we don't just support you guys, you support us. And it's just really, I just can't express my gratitude enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Right.
Just real quick, when my team was in here 2 months ago, we talked about how we were preparing for the new DOJ rules around accessibility on the website and all that stuff. I just want to make sure that you heard that on the eve of that deadline happening, that they extended it for another year. So the good news is that with our work, we're compliant with on our website. We have a few internal applications that we now will have more time to be able to go and get into compliance, and we have a plan for that.
Great. Thank you for that. Anything else?
I just want to thank E&E for their great presentation. I saw a short preview of it yesterday, but I did not see the video, and I love the video. And given that this meeting was recorded today, I'm going to encourage people to have members of their divisions go back and watch if they haven't. At first, I was going to say, oh, you have to send out the video, but you don't have to send out the video because we can refer people to this meeting. But great job, you guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good job. All right. Seeing nobody online with a hand up, I think that concludes our executive management team meeting. So thanks very much, everyone. Thank you.
The awning.
All right. Nice job. Thank you.